Hi, today I'm going to go ahead and discuss one of Dr. Stufflebeam's evaluation approaches. These approaches are used to evaluate programs, businesses, and educations, and overall protocols. Stufflebeam characterized each approach, assessed its strengths and weaknesses, and has considered how it is best applied. So today, the wonderful approach I get to discuss for our class is the Public Relations Inspired Studies Evaluation Approach. And this has been classified as a pseudo-evaluation. And a pseudo-evaluation is basically motivated oftentimes by political agendas, financial gain, and can be used to hide damaging information. So public relations evaluations approach is basically an ideological marketing, advertising, and infomercial-like approach to evaluation. An approach that intends to convince and promote and support and sell. Kind of like the infomercials you see on TV. Basically, their overall goal is to provide you with information. However, the information has not been evaluated critically. So this evaluation approach in the workplace is an approach of studying the effectiveness of a program, an agenda, findings, or projects, and it always accentuates and enhances the strengths of a program, the strengths of an agenda, and positive findings. And it doesn't necessarily outline or identify flaws or weaknesses. So if a study was done through the public relations lens, it would only seek out information that would support an organization or stakeholder's view or claims in order to support an air of excellence and basically to secure public support and praise. The public public relations evaluation approach may also negatively mislead stakeholders of a program's true value and eliminates the possibility of making a program better. There's other things that I like to point out before I continue. And basically this approach meets the needs of all right-to-know audiences, but usually is not successful as an evaluation approach because it exaggerates the strengths and does not evaluate the weaknesses. It tends to be self-supporting and not very critical, and it uses data to convince stakeholders, investors, that a program is solidly sound, which is false. So another aspect of this public relations evaluation approach often neglects to use any type of standard, like us as science teachers in the U.S. I'm using this because that's what I do. We use next-gen science standards to build our curriculum and to evaluate what we're teaching. And it also helps us to evaluate whether it's effective, and we have goals that we have to obtain. We use it to build our curriculum and our curriculum maps and guide us. But in the real world, using this public relations approach, basically we have no evaluation of anything balanced. We just tend to mention the good and forget the bad. A past and present example of the public relations approach to evaluation. One example from the past that is still affecting us in the present is the Enron scandal and the way it chooses to communicate to the public, and the communication style and evaluation practices of their procedures within this organization usually is evasive in nature, and it evades basically any type of truthful practice. An example comparison here is a comparison chart where we're looking at what we would see in ethical practice and Enron's public relations approach to evaluation. When you are looking at something ethical, Stufflebeam states that evaluators should do what they can to persuade their audiences to make honest use of their findings. And he also supports the idea that evaluations should not misuse or eliminate reports or findings. You basically lay it all out on the table, good and bad. Stufflebeam also believes that one should always use standards for evaluating any type of practice or finding compared to what Enron has done in the past. And you can look at any video clip or newspaper clipping, and when it basically has caused any damages to the environment or misleads even its stakeholders. But basically, the people higher up in the company, they express biased testimonials, and they only present selective findings, and they tend to cover up any type of incident rather than have it evaluated. Enron also in the past has used expert testimony, and Stufflebeam also talks about this, basically having zero critical friends but friendly critics. This whole idea of sneaky, uncritical comments to speak about their company promotes efforts to maintain support of both its image and its own agenda, and it lacks true evaluation methods using research and standards, but avoids gathering data or releasing any negative findings. A background behind this whole public relations inspired studies approach to evaluation started really in the mid-1960s, and the number of alternative approaches to conducting evaluations has increased significantly. We see this mid-1960 mark is when we started to evaluate elementary teachers, middle school teachers, and high school teachers for best practices and the way they conducted their classroom and built curriculum. And there was a big push to have some standardization. And but going back to the early 1900s, we see the whole public relation movement begin in the early 1900s. Here we have a wonderful organizer, graphic organizer that I found, believe it or not, based on Stufflebeam approach to evaluation, and it was found on Wikipedia, and it was based on this discussion of all the different approaches, summarizing the approaches, but you can see very clearly some of the attributions of this whole public relations approach is basically based on propaganda needs and creating a positive public image instead of really finding any type of balanced and standards-based evaluation or critique. So, lacks objectivity. Things to remember when doing an acceptable evaluation. Stufflebeam states that evaluation means a study designed and conducted to assist some audience to assess an object's merit and worth. He also mentions that we must look at the approaches as relatively discrete ways to conduct evaluations. In reality, there are many occasions when it is functional to mix and match these different approaches when we're evaluating a program. Accountability and standards are necessary when conducting authentic evaluations, and we must use critical, unbiased, integrity-rich methods for gathering and reporting results of any type of evaluation, and there should also be no misuse or elimination of information and standards when evaluating a program or product or system. We should never use any type of evaluation process that pumps up a program and basically supports a false image of a program. So this is a very quick and brief summary of the public relations evaluation approach by Stufflebeam, and it's been a pleasure giving you a very brief summary of the highlights of this evaluation system. Remember, this is a pseudo-evaluation. It is not one that is highly recommended by StuffleBeam. So thank you so much, and it's been a pleasure.